Hi, welcome to another episode of Slay with me, Leigh Clark, the founder and curator of Slay the USA, a book series featuring powerful women leaving their mark. Today, I have a very exciting guest, Justine Wilson, who's joining us from Sarasota. She's actually in the 1 Year Later project, which is a special project you guys probably don't know a lot about yet. But a group of authors has written a chapter on what they hope to accomplish in the next year. Spoiler alert, mine was things like start a podcast or leave my corporate job, both of which have already happened, right? And now a year later, in June of 2026, they're going to write the second half. What happened? What came right? What came wrong? What they learned? So very excited about that. So that's how Justine is part of our Slay the USA family. Also, founder and key visionary in all things curriculum related for Curious and Kind Education out of Sarasota, which is self-directed play. They work with a lot of different types of students who are in school full time, others homeschooling groups, and so on and so forth. That they're in their third school year now. They're in Sarasota, and also Justine moved there and opened. So we'll get kind of into your story, Justine, and share that with everyone. But welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. It's super fun to be a part of such an amazing group of women entrepreneurs. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. And everyone knows the format. We pretty much go back and forth with questions. We're going to kind of keep it to 30 minutes, so thereabouts. But I want to start off asking you, like, what inspired you to start Curious and Kind Education, and what is it? Like, break it down, even though I already know.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So I have been an educator for 20 years in public and private schools, both here in the United States and abroad. And I became an educator to help kids thrive and flourish. And I just found that in a conventional schooling system, both public or private, not all kids could be their best selves. And I was finding myself saying and doing things as a building principal that I was just not okay with. And I wanted to take a break for a moment to be able to align my head and my heart. And when I did that, out came Curious and Kind Education. And it's a place where kids are completely self-directed in their learning. And that looks a lot like play, especially when you're 5 years old or 6 years old. So we do offer four programs. Little ones for caregivers and little children. And then we have a forest school for 5 through 12-year-olds. And then we have, and those are all homeschoolers. And then we have teens that are also homeschoolers, and they come 2 days a week and they do project or problem-based learning. It's completely self-directed as well. They choose their projects. We just facilitate that. And then we also offer summer camps for any kind of schooler during the summertime. But we have the structure of setting our day where the facilitators will offer some ideas and what we can do, and then the kids add to that, and we build our schedule together with the learners.
That's amazing. And I really think the leadership that comes from that is so, so important. And even over the summer, I took my son for the first time to a STEM camp, and my son is on that kind of like ADHD. The whole world is getting there, right? We're all kind of morphing into these really like highly curious people who want to, access a lot of things. But I thought he was going to be so bored, right? So it's STEM camp, it's all day. He's like sitting at a computer. I'm like, he's never going to do this. He likes basketball, he likes soccer. He came home and he's like, that is my favorite camp that I've ever
Mm.
been to ever. I mean, we talked about horseback riding, everything. He's done all these camps, and this was his absolute favorite. The next day, he said, can you pick me up late? And I was like, this
Oh,
is so cool, and he was learning
yeah.
things like animation and Roblox and things that he's interested in. One was a YouTube camp. So I love that you're in that place of facilitating, really fostering what works for them and what they're passionate about instead of cramming information into them that they're not really absorbing. How are the kids like? Do they respond to it?
Yeah, so it depends. If they first come out of conventional schooling, the kids will ask a lot of permission. They'll be like, can I go to the bathroom? Can I get a drink of water? Those are like the basic questions. And we're like, yes, here you are free to take care of your body, right? So instead of saying, can I go to the bathroom? You can just say, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, right? So, that simple shift like needs to happen, which then frees and unlocks like a lot of potential and possibilities, which I
Right.
think curious and kind just aligns like a synonym would be possibilities, right? And opportunities. So then they start getting the ideas like, ooh, like I can advocate for myself and I can ask. We had one kid that would be, she joined a knitting project and she asked permission to stand up and move around. She's like, I've been sitting for too long. My legs are tired. Can I stand up? And I'm like, yes, like you don't need to ask permission for that. Like just go ahead and take care of your body. Like stand up, move around, do whatever you need to do, right? And come back to this if you want, or come back to it another day or not. Like it's completely your choice. A principle at Curious and Kind is that we trust learners in their self-directed learning instincts, right? Like to take care of themselves, to explore what they want to explore. So the kids are often up in trees, organizing a game of capture the flag. It happened yesterday. The kids are in the creek, capturing critters and exploring. They're building boats to go down the creek, especially after a big rainstorm. They love to see how what they can invent floats and moves and who gets the fastest ones and all of those things. But then there's also indoor projects. Our teens learned about some stop motion photography. They're exploring creating games like mystery games. They wanted an international snack box. And
Hmm.
they were, so monthly, they're going to be exploring different international snacks, which is super fun for them. And there's like trivia and games that go along with that. So just like a smattering of types of things the kids ask for and advocate for in their learning.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because that's not ever been the traditional model. It's like do as I say and not like self-directed. And I have seen adults who are crippled to make decisions because
Hmm.
they've always been directed and always been directed. And you know, it's important there's a balance, right? To be able to follow rules, to be able to have a sense of order, to be able to
Hmm.
like know that there's a goal or an objective, which is why like there's a structure around Curious and Kind. It's not like they just, it's all willy-nilly.
Right.
It's like they come in and it's like, but being able to have autonomy over how they approach the idea, what they learn, and also that then expands upon people's ability to create beyond what we know and what's possible when we're only pouring into them and not allowing them to be the sponge, both the sponge and what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
They
think
have both sides.
Yeah, you've definitely touched on it. Like Curious and Kind was created because we're not waiting for the world to become a kinder, more sustainable place to live. Like we are creating that change. And so a perfect example is sometimes the kids will be in the forest and play war. And
Mm.
so we'll stop them, especially the minute anyone experiences any discomfort or expresses a discomfort, we stop them and we're like, hey, let's dig into that discomfort. Like, we're not here to recreate the worst in humanity, right? Or play out the world as it is around us. Instead, we have the opportunity to be who we want to be and how we want to be together in a community. So even though
Right.
kids are self-directed, they are still in a community, and we work on community principles such as collaboration and nonviolent communication and empathy, self-awareness, which is a huge piece. We work on consent. So those are all aspects that we directly impact and guide, right? As we're not just waiting for the world to change, like we are changing the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So. And I think that that's what also resonates so much with the sleigh projects is that we're not like no one in the sleigh project is sitting around waiting, right? We're all taking actions like in our expertise and in our ways. So that was one thing that I really loved about being part of your projects.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what I look for in women who've gone for it, women who are self-directed. And I work for corporate for a really long time, so there's nothing wrong with that because there's a lot of collaboration that happens there. To the point that you made earlier, like kids need to learn what the two pillars of emotional intelligence, empathy, and self-awareness, right? So both are important. It's important to
Mm,
know how you can contribute, but also that you're part of something greater than yourself, right? That's like the world beyond,
yeah.
and that's important for kids to learn because kids in general are very self-involved. That's just the way the world works until they learn from experience of what other people experience. The world is
Mhm.
really for them. So I love that there's a balance because you think about the way we did like group projects in high school. Something
Mhm.
miserable, no one wanted to do. But there is that, we have to work together for a common goal, right? So the
Mhm.
fact that that's fostered and that you're going through those different emotional intelligence pillars, I think that's the
Mhm.
most important. I mean, I say it all the time, like, Alexa and AI and Siri and all the things will replace the need for knowledge per se, right? Like we want to generally know things, but if you want to learn about the Constitution or any of those things, right, you can ask. And that's how I leverage ChatGPT all the time with my son. He asked me a question about Martin Luther King. So I was like, hey, Siri, ask ChatGPT to tell us about Martin Luther King Jr. and like that whole thing. And so I love that they have access to that. What they really need in the core of their being is the emotional intelligence
Mhm.
because the knowledge will be readily available. A lot of
Mhm.
school beyond the education is figuring out the social cues, nonviolent communication, making sure kids aren't hitting each other in a public school, like that there's accountability. If you do the wrong thing, there's like a consequence and all the things that we build in to make for a good society, right? To make for like people to be
Mhm.
along. So I love that it's really focusing more on the emotional intelligence of the child
Yeah.
where the play is happening and the discovery is happening because that's how they see the world. But how they show up in it, even like you said, not having to ask permission to use the bathroom, but rather informing someone this is what I intend to do. Right. So you're safe,
Mhm.
they know you're going somewhere. You don't just go, you let people know. But also you think about that in relationships later in life when they have a partner that, doesn't care about their needs. They know their needs are important. They know they don't,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So I think that
Exactly.
so many
Yeah,
places.
I'm really the part that is super inspiring and just keeps all of us going is that we're envisioning these kids in their 20s and 30s not needing to unpack or like go backwards and figure out who they are. Like
Right.
because they're knowing in a really authentic way, right? Like in play there is conflict and there is a need for communication. And that's all okay. We make space for that. We have time for that. Whereas if you're in a very rigid system that's telling you lockstep what to do, they're minimizing conflict so that they can get through their day, right?
Right.
Where when we're open and we're allowing kids to play, they're going to have conflict in authentic ways about things that they care about. And then
Yeah.
they're going to learn how to manage that so that when they're 20 and 30 or 40 years old, whenever that awakening happens in all of us, right? We don't have to unpack and relearn who we are. So
Right.
that's really the hope for that, more just sustainable world, right? And that we can create now and in for the future, for sure.
Yeah, and we also need like to learn from the children, which is kind of what you were alluding to earlier. Like, not only do we teach, we also learn. And I think we've been in a society that has not fostered that, not fostered
Mhm.
what can we learn from the children. And,
Mhm.
the imagination that is our world now. I mean, think about like Nano Banana just got announced on Google. I don't know if you've heard about that or what that is even, but Nano Banana basically is AI that will allow you to create any type of imagery. You can take a picture of your
Mm.
grandmother and a picture of the beach and a picture of a soccer ball, and they will put all those things together, like whatever you want. You can say, how would the couch look over there? It can do all the things. So you think about that, and now you think about a kid being able to draw, or their crazy monster idea, or all the things that come out of children, right, when they're in imaginative play that can now inform us as well, right? So we can see the
Mm.
world through a younger vision, a younger set of eyes. And I think that that's something our society has yet to really do is to learn so much from the children. I think in hindsight, we realized we did, right? In hindsight, once we raise our kids and stuff, we realized we were learning from them all along and they are great teachers. But I think in the way that you're fostering education, you're allowing them to really educate one another, create, design, and imagine in a way
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
even informs the adults.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a question for you. In creating the Slay project and building this network and community that you've built, what would you say is like the biggest like personality trait you've needed to develop or way of being you've needed to develop in yourself to be able to be this community connector? Because I do think that is the way forward, is like the concept of like supporting each other and lifting each other up. So what have been some of your learnings along the way that you've needed to foster in yourself?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and I think for me, I had to really become what I considered slaying, right? So you have this project, and literally the week before the first brunch, I had gotten my nose broken in like six places by a very bad relationship choice of the past, and luckily I have a wonderful partner now and all the things. But I asked myself, like, should I hide this? And I'm like, I'm asking women to show up vulnerable and honestly and be
Mm,
who they really are. Who am I to pretend this isn't happening? Better don't do that anymore. Don't have that kind of partner. Don't have something you need to be embarrassed about, right? Own the fact that it happens, that it does happen to wonderful people. Even the kindness lady can get like punched in the face, stuff happens, life happens. But it doesn't define me. It's not like my story that I like ride around on.
mm,
It's just also leveling up in every sense of the word. Like getting into the house that is the dream home, like pushing myself to do the things that I am impressed by because I've surrounded myself by so many women that inspire me. Like, and that's
mhm,
like what I think is the coolest thing about this project is I realized I was doing a ton of like connecting with amazing women and never getting to know any of them. So I built a table, right? So I was like, let
mm,
me build a table of people who don't want to do small talk anymore. And they want their interactions to be meaningful and learning filled and are emotionally intelligent and are self-aware and are
mhm,
also empathetic and are ambitious like me. And if I needed to find that around me, and then that then inspired me because if I'm going to lead the project, then I have to hold myself to the same standards, but also the same grace, right? The same
mhm,
grace that I would extend. Yes, I deal with super impressive women all day long. Every one of them has a story of humility behind it. I don't deal with ego people. I don't. I can
mhm.
tell you off the bat, as soon as somebody tells me their story, I can tell you who the ego people are. It's really easy to filter out. Those are not my people. There's a place for those people. The ones that I love are the energetic 8.2s, the people who pour into others, the people who are of service, the people who want to change the world or are crazy enough to think they can, the ones that are just standing strong on their values, like really creating something unique, putting themselves out there, being vulnerable. You know how hard it is to put yourself out there? You know how hard it is to let the entire internet in on your darkest day? Like it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. But that's what I think leadership requires. I think leadership
Mhm.
requires that you become everything you ask other people to be.
Mm,
And,
yeah.
yeah, because you can't demand somebody to be, and that's almost like, if you own the restaurant, knowing what it's like to make the fries, right? You got
Mhm,
to know what it's like from every aspect, but also, I mean, I would give any other woman in this project so much grace for going through what I've been through without
mhm,
judging her. So why
mhm,
judge myself? Why give myself
mhm,
a hard time? So, I
mhm.
mean, have you met some? Well, you haven't even had the opportunity really to meet a ton of people because you're in kind of a siloed project, but hopefully you've been
Yeah.
connecting on the calls and stuff because you have been on the
Yeah.
masterclass. Have you met some great women yet?
Yeah, I have. I am part of a local networking group where I have been meeting some people in different industries and really making an effort to get out there. And then, of course, in the forest school world, there's a whole network there, and the self-directed education. There's the Alliance for Self-Directed Education and Agile Learning Centers that are all like these micro schools. Also, the micro school network. I'm a part of
Mm-hmm.
that. So really people are taking risks and changing the face of education. And so really I'm trying to find those people in my industry, but also to be inspired and supported by other women entrepreneurs in different fields that can help like support each other has been really powerful as well. Um, I like you said, Leah, resonated a lot. Like being vulnerable is something that I'm working on as well, and sharing in a way that like what I think is important to the world actually is. I'm finding it is important to
Yeah,
the world, you
yeah,
know? And the
it
more
is.
like you can just put that out there, Curious and Kind started with 16 kids enrolled
I
because
know.
because I have been vulnerable just to put my ideas out there and say like, hey, do you think your kids could benefit from this? Like, I know I can. And then turns out our staff, had to grow as well. And great, amazing facilitators are coming to us and wanting to grow and develop in this way as well. And so it just took and still takes being vulnerable, asking for help, um, telling the story of myself as a principal not feeling like I belonged in that space and seeing kids and their families that didn't belong in that space and thinking about how we can serve, you know, the greater good. So that's a really, really good reminder just to be vulnerable and
Yeah,
um
and what a
just
beautiful statement you
connect.
just made. I mean, what a beautiful statement you just made because putting yourself out there and letting people know that you have an idea of doing something in a different way and trusting the universe, like there's a reason we get called to do higher things. There's a reason we feel stuck in the boxes that are comfortable. Like they're not comfortable. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes for educators working in the school feels like velvet handcuffs, right? It's a steady job, but you feel really like cuffed from your ability to grow and learn. Some people fight from within, some people fight outside of it.
Mhm.
But if you feel like if you're called to do something or change the way things are examined, we wouldn't have different learning modalities. You think
Mhm.
about the population. I'm going to say probably, I don't think this is controversial. Maybe it is. I don't know. But what I've seen is this. Since to me, there's a reason that the internet and rap music both happened around
Mm.
the same time. Okay. Because people could process information at a higher rate than they could
Mm.
previously. Our parents' generation, our boomers, cannot listen to rap music and keep up with this pace. However, our generation, early 2000s and on, can. Now the kids literally speak in meme, like 10-second clips, if that, right? So you also see an onslaught of spectrum, ADHD, all the things. I don't believe that that's mental illness. I believe that we
No.
are evolving mentally, right? We are evolving as a species. We have changed so much over the years. They said we used X% of our brains. Maybe we're using more now. So rather than limiting these kids who are just different learners, if people like yourself never stepped up vulnerably and said, hey, I think maybe we could try something different here, guys. I feel like maybe this kid feels unseen, or this type of learning, this structure is not working for their soul, their spirit. We're breaking kids to make them fit into some kind of
Mhm.
mold, finding out we're
Mhm.
all these individual snowflakes, genetic, unique unicorns of like, we're all very, very unique. And we don't all watch the same three channels and we don't all vote one way or the
Yeah.
other. Like we are becoming very multifaceted. I think all of that is part of the evolution of the spirit, what we've learned over time, but we're
Mhm.
getting faster as a species. So if it wasn't for educators like yourself who are pushing back on and just opening and being creative yourself, you're the same kind of imaginative kid at play as
Mhm.
an adult in this world. And I think
Yeah.
that that's fantastic.
Yeah, like the families even have shared that they feel seen in their journeys, and the educators, we did a 360 impact survey at the end of last year. We asked the kids their experiences at Curious and Kind at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, like how well they can share their emotions. Do they feel like this is a place for them? Can they connect to other people? We asked them a series of questions around belonging and self advocacy, and then we asked them again at the end of the year to self-report. We asked our community partners that we do field trips with, that we have different learning experiences. We asked families and we asked our team, our staff. So this whole 360 view turns out that the impact was like beyond my wildest dreams. Kids grew by points on a 5 point scale, which is huge. The staff told incredibly touching stories of never feeling like they could be their whole self at a place of
Mm,
employment, right? Like to be
I feel
able to
that.
bring your whole self to a place of employment has changed our team's lives, like for the better. And it's incredible what the stories they tell. And then the families, like I said, they shared stories of like being able to relax and like know that their child is safe, but also that their story matters. They've
Right.
had trauma that they're sharing too, or they're preventing trauma or undoing trauma that they had when they were in school now in this place, right? So that impact survey that we did is available for people to see on our social media, and it'll be up on our website very shortly. but has resulted in us writing The Curious and Kind Way, which is
Mm.
available to families and educators, facilitators to be able to be supported in doing this work, right?
Mm.
In creating a different kind of a world for themselves internally, but also how you present then to those young people in your life. So we're super excited. That's what I wrote my 1 year later project on is launching this and being vulnerable again, like 20 years in education, distilling that down to really what I'm offering now. It's been a lifetime of work and it feels really vulnerable to share those learnings to the world, but I am trying and I am putting it out there. So we've launched it and it's available for people to have a sneak peek at. So I'm really excited to share that and hopefully make a greater impact just beyond the 100 kids that we have, but to support people in their social emotional learning as adults. And then how to support kids in conflict resolution, how to be regulated and co-regulate with kids, um, and just really expand that work for everybody.
I'm always shocked at emotionally unregulated adults. Like,
Mm.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
that there's emotions. I get things run hot and wild, but these same people can go to work and keep it together all day. So like, I heard one of my favorite and most woke authors among the project. Her name's Yasmin Elzamore. She's out of Slane, New York. She's like 31 years old, super woke. And she kind of said on a podcast recently, like, at this age, you don't have an excuse to trauma dump on other people. There are
Hmm.
enough free
Yeah.
resources available that you can identify if you have issues that continue to come up in relationships, interpersonal conflict. Again, two key pillars of emotional intelligence are self awareness and empathy. So, in a
Yeah.
situation of conflict, you say, how am I showing up? That's the first question. How am I
Yeah.
showing up? Right? You cannot have a fight with two people, right? So, you can't. And the other part is having empathy for the other person's position, even if you don't agree with it, trying to understand why they feel the way they feel, not
Hmm.
necessarily whether or not you agree with why they feel the way they feel, but just understanding what is their motivation in that moment. Where are they coming from? If we had that, we would have world peace. I feel like a lot of conflict resolution. I feel like a lot of the chaos in the world comes from emotionally unregulated adults. We've been
Yeah.
watching a lot of true crime lately, and so I've seen a lot of very emotionally unregulated adults, and it's a very difficult thing because we begin to teach our children the same. So I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that there are these like humanity warriors out in the world. There is a program at FGCU, and I've lectured there. I mean, guest lecture or whatever. I don't know. They brought me in the college. They have something called Rock up there, the roots of compassion and kindness.
Mm.
It's a whole program around emotional intelligence, which
Hmm.
again, amen for
Yeah.
these educators who are saying, hey, we need to go beyond, like, the information is available. We started a long time ago, you
Hmm.
guys. Most of us, the entirety of our generation, the information has been available, even if it was like
Yeah.
Encyclopedia Britannica. It was out there. We had something. So
Hmm.
now it's really how do we foster people living peacefully and having the ability
Yeah.
to face the trauma they've endured, to show up better for themselves and for others, and to show their kids really the roots of kindness and compassion, and show them
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
to be in this world. So
Yeah.
I would say one of my last questions, because I know we're almost at time, is, what values do you most hope to instill in the children that you get the experience to care for?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. The most. Um, that's a huge question. But we really work towards that inner journey, like you spoke about, like to be able to understand yourself, and then that curiosity is like about yourself, right? So that you can show up for yourself, but other people too. And so that's where that kindness piece is. That kindness piece isn't like be a nice girl, right?
Right.
That kindness piece is really authentically being kind and making space for others that are different than yourself in the world,
Yep.
right? And so I think that that is the biggest thing, the biggest big picture that we have at Curious and Kind is really the inner work and then the outer work, how you show up. And so we explicitly work on it throughout every day. It's not like a social emotional learning lesson happens for 20 minutes at a
Right.
scheduled time. This is the work,
In real
right?
time.
In real time, in real situations that are meaningful, that they can apply a different way of thinking to if they choose, right? And when they're ready to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
what you're doing is amazing. I would love for
Thank
you to
you.
tell people how to find you. And hopefully you have plans to continue to expand. And if you're not in someone's area, like try and find these micro schools, self-directed learning, outdoor play, forest schools, right? But what are
Yeah.
your specific deeds? How do they find you?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram at Curious and Kind Education, on Facebook as well at Curious and Kind Education. And then our website is also very simple, curiousandkind.org. And we are trying to expand our impact through the Curious and Kind way. So you'll be able to see that on our website as well. And we'd love to have you along on the journey that to just make the world a kinder, more gentle, more sustainable place. So
I love
thank you so
that.
much for having me and giving me the opportunity to share and grow and push myself too.
Yeah, and you're going to come back obviously when 1 year later comes out because I'm like really starting to get the authors more on sooner in these projects. But yeah, thanks for being here today. Stay on with me. Bye, guys. We'll see you next episode.